Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's Kenya Private Sector Alliance webinar on key Afreximbank products and initiatives to support the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. The AfCFTA is an integrated capital market of over 1.2 billion people with a combined GDP of over $2.5 trillion. Now, for most businesses, these figures completely redefine the boundaries of commercial possibility. For youth enterprises in particular, this expanded addressable market really shifts the paradigm in terms of what growth and expansion targets should look like going forward. So today is really all about providing you with first-hand updates on the implementation of some of the bank's flagship initiatives, such as In addition, KEPSA will also provide insights on the extraordinary work that they're currently doing with a view to fostering entrepreneurship and innovation within Africa's ever-growing youth cities. But before we get stuck into all of that, a little bit of now, at the bottom of the screen, there are multiple application engagement tools that you can use. All the engagement tools are resizable and movable, so feel free to use them, move them around to get the most of your desktop space. You can expand your slide area or maximize it to full screen by clicking on the arrow to the top right. If you have any questions during the webcast, you can submit them through an engagement tool. We will try to answer these questions during the webcast with your answer is required for time. Those questions will be answered later by email. Please note that we do capture everything. This full experience will remain required internet connection and programs or browser sessions. So the best way to just make sure that you test and the results so that you can get presented. Some networks force slides to advance more slowly than others, so many of the VPN is recommended. If your slides are behind, push F5 to refresh your page. You can also find additional answers to some of the technical questions, technical issues, located in the help engagement. So, now that we've got the last thing out of the way, please let me, without further ado, welcome for our first speaker today. This is Hanayo Awani. Please quickly remarks about Afreximbank. Sawani is Managing Director, Intra-African Initiative at Afreximbank.
Good morning. Oji, I don't know whether you can hear me. I could hardly hear you. And I don't know whether it's my system, but can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
I could hardly hear you, I'm not sure, but if you can hear me, then maybe I can just proceed. I was basically reading your lips. Good morning, everybody. Mr. Nick Nesbitt, Chairman of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, KEPSA, distinguished members of KEPSA, colleagues from Afreximbank, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to you all. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Kenya Private Sector KEPSA webinar that will focus on sharing key products and initiatives that the African Export-Import Bank has rolled out to facilitate the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, AfCFTA, by its member states. The webinar aims to introduce a selection of products and services that we have specifically designed to support African businesses in the context of driving intra-African trade. As a Pan-African multilateral trade finance institution with a mandate to promote intra and extra-African trade, Afreximbank is committed to championing the promotion and expansion of trade and investment on the continent. Indeed, we offer a range of products and services particularly designed to cater to the unique needs of our diverse stakeholder base. Unfortunately, time limitations for this session will not allow for an exhaustive overview of the suite of products and facilities. However, my colleagues will present to you a selection of them that we believe will be of particular relevance to KEPSA members. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, Africa and Africans are on the cusp of making history with the implementation of the AfCFTA starting in January 2021. The full implementation of the AfCFTA promises to revolutionize trade, reshape markets across the region, and boost output in the manufacturing and services sectors. It will fundamentally transform Africa's economic structure and significantly reduce our reliance on the export of raw materials to markets abroad. Some studies estimate that intra-African trade under the AfCFTA will increase by about 52% by 2022, and even more than double within the first decade of implementation. According to the Secretary General of the AfCFTA, His Excellency Mr. Wamkele Mene, implementing the AfCFTA is the best stimulus for post-COVID-19 economies. And as he rightly observes, and I quote, many countries in Africa do not have the monetary policy space nor the fiscal policy space to provide large bailouts in the trillions of dollars for economic recovery. Therefore, for Africa, the stimulus package we know is the actual implementation of the AfCFTA. Increased intra-African trade is what will drive economic development post-COVID-19, end of quote. Indeed, AfCFTA offers the opportunity to shake off once and for all the trade and economic development shackles of our historical past, including market fragmentation, lack of economies of scale, reliance on the export of primary commodities, underdeveloped regional value chains, tariff and non-tariff barriers to trade, the result of which has been the very low levels of intra-African trade at about 16 to 18%, depending on your reporting methodology. At Afreximbank, we also believe that the AfCFTA is a critical response to Africa's developmental challenges, and that it will potentially enable the continent to significantly boost intra-African trade through an integrated market. We're also confident that the AfCFTA will catalyze industrial development, thereby generating the continental value chains of export quality value-added products. It also sends a strong signal globally that Africa is open for business on the back of a transparent and rules-based environment for trade and investment. Ladies and gentlemen, our leaders have taken the bull by the horn and shown the political zest to get the AfCFTA out of the bureaucracy of negotiations and onto the path of implementation. However, we all know that the full realization of the benefits of the AfCFTA will require more than political will. There is need for us, private sector, whether as banks, industrialists, SMEs, to take the ship over the line and play a part in financing, investing, producing, and trading, thereby getting the wheels of commerce moving in the integrated market. At Afreximbank, guided by a medium-term strategy, which we have dubbed Impact 2021 Africa Transformed, intra-African trade is the bank's main focus. It has been since 2016, and consequently, the bank has rolled out a number of initiatives and products whose objectives are to promote intra-African trade, industrialization and export development, provide adequate trade finance facilities and services, thus stimulating Africa's transformation. From a facilitation perspective and in support of implementing the free trade agreement, the bank is focused on a number of initiatives, and I'll mention just a few from the facilitation perspective. Goods should be able to transit across several countries, even land-linked countries, under the AfCFTA through the Afreximbank African Cooperative Transit Guarantee Scheme. Standards have to be harmonized and quality infrastructure developed through the rolling out of Afreximbank's initiative around testing, inspection, and certification centers, which we've dubbed African Quality Assurance Centers, thereby facilitating the production of trade and value-added exports. We're also addressing market structure institutional failures through the promotion of export trading companies. Furthermore, I'm glad to inform you that under the auspices of the Afreximbank Academy, the bank has partnered with the International Trade Center to roll out a training program targeting the private sector on how to export under the AfCFTA. I take this opportunity to inform you that this training will be available to KEPSA and its members in 2021. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, let me also highlight the recognition of the fiscal losses and structural adjustments that may arise as tariffs fall. The AU Summit in 2019 requested African Ministers of Trade and Finance, in partnership with Afreximbank, to develop a framework for the AfCFTA adjustment facility by February 2021 summit. This facility will have a private sector window that will support companies like yours to develop competitiveness and to upgrade their productive capacity and diversify production, positioning us all to take advantage of the opportunities that the free trade area will bring. The bank has also taken a proactive approach in the development and promotion of digital assets that will be key in the trade and investment space in the post-COVID-19 world. As such, among the initiatives my colleagues will take you through are the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, PAPS, the Africa Customer Due Diligence Repository Platform, MANSA platform, which was launched a few days ago. And I think the focus today will be on telling people how to use it and subscribe to it. There's also the Trade Information Platform and Trade Regulatory Platform, TIP, and my colleague will talk to you about it and the associated services. This will be key enablers to African trade in that they're expected to bring down the cost and enhance the ease of doing business on the continent. Ladies and gentlemen, the private sector will be the engine of trade under the AfCFTA. As the biggest economy in East Africa, Kenya has the vital leadership role to promote intra-African trade, and the participation and contribution of the respective members in the Kenya private sector are key to achieving the success of the AfCFTA and promoting intra-regional trade. Afreximbank seeks to be your go-to business partner as you build solid export manufacturing capacities, as well as domestic and continental supply chains that facilitate increased flow of goods and services across borders in Africa. I'm aware that the government of the Republic of Kenya has prioritized the diversification of the economy beyond agriculture and is set to develop the manufacturing sector. In this regard, the bank avails itself to support you in addressing the constraints that the private sector in Kenya is facing on the path to industrialization by facilitating the production of value-added exports and services through the development of agro-processing, light manufacturing, and tradable service sectors. while also ensuring that goods produced are traded. We stand ready to hold hands and back the Kenyan private sector as we go to Africa to exploit new markets and investment opportunities. It is in this context that I'm very pleased to announce a dedicated product program to support Kenya's Africa trade and investment pursuits. That program, which we have dubbed the Kenya Africa Trade and Investment Promotion Program, or in short, KEPSA, will commence with an initial amount of $500 million with the overarching aim of facilitating the expansion of Kenya's trade and investments with the rest of Africa. Specifically, KEPSA will, amongst others, provide financing and/or payment assurances and guarantees to support Kenya's trade and investments with other African countries, avail the country export program of Afreximbank, which we call Co-Expro, to enhance Kenya's trade and export-related activities through export advisory services, financing, advocacy, and capacity-building initiatives. It will support the development of industrial parks and export processing zones in Kenya through financing, technical assistance, and even investment promotion. It will also avail global facilities to Kenyan multinational corporations operating in multiple countries. It will support the expansion of the Kenyan creative industry, including but not limited to the film, music, and fashion industries. It will also support Kenya, the trade between Kenya and the Kenyans in diaspora, among other things. We support the acquisition and setting up of eligible franchises in trade and trade-related activities and services. It will support Kenyan SMEs through a suite of tailor-made products and services that the bank has on offer. It will also provide advisory services to Kenyan investors to facilitate higher volume of trade and investment between Kenya and the rest of Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, there are a whole host of products to share, but let me also invite you to engage our regional office in Kampala to explore any of these facilities and the robust suite of products and facilities that the bank has to offer. And I'm sure Mr. Kudakwashe Matagreke, who is the regional chief operating officer, will share contact details data in this program. Finally, allow me to take the opportunity to invite you to the Intra-African Trade Fair holding in Kigali during 6th to 12th of September 2021. The bank pioneered the establishment of the Intra-African Trade Fair, IATF, which is the largest go-to trade and investment fair on the African continent. The first edition was in 2018. It attracted over 5,000 visitors, over 1,000 exhibitors from 45 countries, resulting in over $32 billion worth of trade and investment deals. We look forward to working with your members to participate effectively in the trade fair and showcase products and services, as well as trade and investment opportunities of Kenya. We also launched, alongside the IATF, the Intra-African Virtual Trade Fair, we call it the VTF, which not only mimics the physical trade fair during the IATF, but also allows those that may not be able to participate in the physical trade fair to do so virtually. The VTF also allows buyers and sellers to take virtual booths and exhibit their goods and services throughout the year. I also encourage KEPSA members to subscribe and purchase virtual booths to exhibit their goods and services. As you can see, this webinar is actually taking place on the VTF platform. I encourage you to take some time at the end of the webinar to navigate and familiarize yourself with the VTF. As I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, let me just reiterate that the bank stands firm on its commitment to support intra-African trade and investments, and in so doing, stands ready to support KEPSA members, as well as other private sector stakeholders, to ensure that their resources, both financial and non-financial resources, in place to not only adapt to a world of continued turbulence in the midst of COVID-19 and other unfavorable business cyclical factors, but indeed to thrive in it. Let me leave you with the words of William Arthur Ward, who said, "Blessed is the person who sees the need recognizes the responsibility, and actively becomes the answer. African countries have seen the collective need to boost intra-African trade to ensure a collective prosperity. The onus is on us all to take up the responsibility and actively become the answer to these generational calls to action. Generations yet to be born will remember our contributions. Thank you for your attention.
Can you hear me, MP? Can you hear me better now?
Yes,
Okay.
I can.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I think that was an extremely intriguing intervention. Some of the numbers that you called out are astounding. You mentioned 2% increase in intra-African trade within only 2 years once we get the AfCFTA up and running. And I think that basically substantiates why Afreximbank is taking the AfCFTA extremely seriously. We have obviously developed a whole comprehensive toolkit and a suite of instruments that we're going to use, some of which Mr. Wani just alluded to, the adjustment facility, PAPS, MANSA, and TIP, which we will deep dive to further down this program. But for now, let me move along with the agenda and invite our next speaker, Mr. Nicholas Nesbitt, for his opening remarks on behalf of KEPSA. Mr. Nesbitt currently serves as chairman of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. Prior to KEPSA, he held various senior level positions in the US at Quest Communications, Schneider Electric, and the Boston Consulting Group. He currently serves as the elected chairman of the East African Business Council. In addition, he is or has been a board member of the Central Bank of Kenya, the Central Bank of Africa, and the American Chamber of Commerce, amongst others. Mr. Nesbitt, over to you, sir. Mr. Nesbitt, can you hear me? It seems as if we've lost Mr. Nick Nesbitt. Right. While we wait for Mr. Nesbitt to come online, maybe we can move to the next item on the agenda, and when he's able to reconnect, he can then give us his opening remarks. I think we lost him. So we'll move on to the next item. So following Mr. Nesbitt's remarks, we are going to have our first presenter for today, Ms. Lizanne Case, who is going to provide us with an overview of Afreximbank's Trade Information Services offering. Ms. Case is a senior manager leading Afreximbank's Trade Information Unit and has been a trusted advisor to C-suite executives for a number of years. Prior to her current role, which sits in the office of the president of Afreximbank, Ms. Case was the strategic advisor to the managing director and executive board of MITI Asset Management, a division of the MITI Group, which is a FTSE 250 company. And she's also worked as a trade economist for the corporate banking sector at First National Bank, which is the second largest bank in Africa. Lizanne Case has also previously worked in international development with the United Nations, where she handled results-based management for trade-related technical assistance projects and programs. So, without further ado, I'll hand the floor over to you, Lisanne.
Introduce our Trade Information Services unit. I will start off by giving a brief overview of the unit. Trade Information Services is a specialist advisory unit in Afreximbank, and the unit was constituted recognizing that one of the biggest barriers to intra and indeed extra-African trade in Africa is a lack of information. And for this reason, intra-African trade remains one of the lowest regions when compared to our counterparts in Europe, in Asia, and in North America. It's because of this relatively lower intra-African trade that there suggests that there's an opportunity for Africa to deepen inter-regional trade and use it as a lever to boost economic growth and development. However, it is because of the inadequate and inconsistent data on trade, market opportunities, and customs across Africa that increases the costs of doing business. This trade information asymmetry is within the continent exacerbates the problem, for example, with formal trade data, which is inconsistently reported. Information on informal trade, which is in some African countries estimated to be greater than informal trade, is also typically missing as well. So the raison d'etre for the constitution of the Trade Information Unit is really to address this barrier to trade and market information in the continent by investing in a unit that serves to bridge this information gap. So Afreximbank is uniquely poised to deliver trade information services, given our unique knowledge, expertise, and connections across the continent. It is believed that through the development of integrated trade intelligence solutions, we will be able to use insights to open markets and drive trade. Trade information works to provide strategic intelligence and decision support to our clients who are seeking to either enter African countries for the first time or to expand their existing capabilities across the continent through a range of integrated trade intelligence solutions. The business model for trade information is comprised of two unique offerings. Our first, which I will speak further on in the presentation, relates to our trade information portal and our trade regulatory portal, whereby we will disseminate standardized trade information products and services and data tools digitally across our offerings. I'll speak to you a bit more about this exciting initiative later on. But the second side of our business model is really responding to the need to work directly with customers and clients as they enter African countries. And we offer a direct-to-company consulting service where we facilitate both intra and extra-African trade to a range of clients and offer a range of products and services as we hold hands to our clients as they develop their market expansion strategies. So in terms of the unique product offering, in terms of the trade information portal, which I mentioned, I will explain more in detail. We have, in addition to not only a number of data products and tools, we also provide various research products across the board for African countries related to country briefs, sector briefs, currency outlooks, commodity outlooks, trade policy updates, etc. In terms of what the services we provide directly to companies, this could be anything ranging from proprietary data and collection, market research, market insights and entry strategies, to more complex products and projects ranging from new product development, export capacity and growth analysis, market risk analysis, competitor analysis, and furthermore, facilitating strategic partnerships for our clients as we help them implement these market expansion strategies. So let me tell you a bit more about our trade information portal. The trade information portal is really Afreximbank's big data play. We recognizing that there are structural data gaps across the continent, the trade information portal is seeking to use advances in data science and modern technology to develop stylized supply chain tools for that essentially will be able to identify companies, markets, and trade flows down to prices in these markets. We are trying to help importing and exporting firms identify the best African markets for their products, uncover intra-African trade flows, and find importers and exporters across these countries and supply chains. In our market insights offering, here we offer all of our standardized research products, which range from market risk reports, industry studies, studies on African value chains, currency reports, as I mentioned earlier, commodity briefs, including as well our flagship publication, the Africa Insights. With our market intelligence, this really is about showcasing and supporting those clients that we help expand across the continent. Users of the portal will also be able to contact our unit directly to find out any further additional information or to find out how to use trade information directly through the consulting model. Our B2b Marketplace is really there to connect buyers and sellers across the continent and showcase various different products and services across the continent, where users will be able to showcase the products that are available, the characteristics, prices, and distribution channels across Africa. Buyers and sellers will also be able to connect with each other through the platform through various communication channels. This is just a bit more about our product suite. As I mentioned before, we have a market screening tool which helps identify the trade flows, both in terms of dollar and volumes. We have various different data tools that support importers and exporters as they develop their unique business case for market expansion. We have provided really avant-garde solutions around, scenario forecasting and what if to determine the real dynamics across African supply chains. In our Market Insights tab, we offer various additional products and services and tools around macroeconomic risk, GDPs, etc. We also offer advanced analytic tools across these supply chains. As I mentioned earlier, the market intelligence is all about showcasing the unique companies that we have supported, but also showing the calendar of events in terms of our marketing and case studies of the clients that have been successfully supported. Within the marketplace, buyers and sellers across the continent can connect through our matchmaking services and uncover directories on businesses and communities across the continent. The benefits of the Trade Information Portal and the Trade Regulatory Portal is that it will link businesses to growth opportunities and identify any of the associated costs and risks. Users are able to identify the best African countries for their selected products and services, uncover intra-African value chains, and find traders across these countries. The portals will also develop the capacity for businesses to access a more sophisticated deep dive understanding of African supply chains, providing both aggregate and granular data for macro and micro level analysis. This will aid policy, strategy, and investment, and even impact analysis. Really what we're trying to do is to leapfrog in terms of the constraints around information and utilize advances in technology to provide the best proxies available for businesses to make their market expansion decisions. Within the context of the bank's emerging digital ecosystem, we have a number of products and services that the bank is investing in to address these unique pain points that our clients experience. As I mentioned before, we are in the midst of developing the trade information portal. We're also about to we're also in the stage of testing our regulatory portal, which will exhibit all of the information on the regulatory aspects of trade in a harmonized and standardized way, which will ease the accessing this information and help inform decision making. I've spoken at length to you about our trade information portal. There's also the MANSA repository, which my colleague Maureen will be able to give a deeper dive discussion around, which aims to develop a repository for KYC and due diligence information. There's also the Pan-African Payments and Settlement System, which you will learn about later on. And of course, there's the virtual trade fair, through which we are currently displaying this webinar, where buyers and sellers are already able to showcase their products 24/7 as part of the upcoming IATF 2021. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, the bank is investing in unique products and services to address your pain points. Through the trade information portal and the trade regulatory portals, we are able to not only uncover opportunities, but really help our clients understand the unique nuances of African markets. Through the MANSA repository, this helps any identified future business partners de-risk and build trust in transactions with unknown entities. The Pan-African Payments and Settlement System will eliminate any payment risk and facilitate the payments in local currencies. We also are investing in a B2b Marketplace to help these buyers and sellers connect with each other digitally. And we also are in plans to develop an African logistic networking tool. With that, I'd like to say that as companies contemplate their recovery strategies and adapt to the new ways of operating, turning these painful lessons of the past few months into new operating models of the future, Trade Information stands ready to support you in this regard, to help you navigate these uncharted waters, both currently through the pandemic and beyond. Our contact details are provided on the screen, and I invite you to contact me should you have any trade information needs. Thank you.
Very much, Lizanne, for helping us to put the concept of the African Trade Gateway into operational perspective. I think Africa's trade information gap has been a major barrier to Africans doing business with each other, and it is clear that your offering will go a long way in terms of mitigating those issues. I think the trade information portals will also be a potential catalyst for FDI in the context of foreign capital better understanding Africa's investment landscape and obviously bringing their capital onto the continent. I can already see some questions on Lizanne's presentation in my inbox, and I encourage you to keep those questions coming in. There will be a Q&A session on the African Trade Gateway after the next presentation, which will be delivered by my colleague, Mrs. Maureen Mba, who is the head of MANSA at Afreximbank. Mrs. Mba will build on Lizanne's intervention by deep diving into MANSA's value proposition to its various stakeholders. Mrs. Maureen Neka Mba holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration from the New York Institute of Technology, as well as an MBA from City University Bellevue, Washington State, USA. She also holds a BA degree in French. Mrs. Mba commenced her career with the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, where she worked for 5 years in the governor's office prior to joining Afreximbank in 1994 as one of the pioneer staff. She was instrumental and charged with numerous responsibilities during the formative years of the bank, including the creation of the bank's compliance unit, which she nurtured to become a department. She is the immediate past director of the bank's compliance department in that regard, and she now heads Afreximbank's MANSA initiative. Over to you, Madam Maureen.
Thank you very much, Eddie, for the introduction. Distinguished personalities, ladies and gentlemen of the press, my great Kenya brothers and sisters, my colleagues at Afreximbank, I say a good morning and a blessed morning to all of us. You all will agree with me that it's a new dawn in Africa. Africa is coming of age. Africa is emerging. Africa actually is making waves, not only in the continent, but globally. We have seen so many names, so many personalities taking positions in different economies globally. So what am I trying to say? It is a call for action for all of us. And I believe we all watched we all participated at the launch of the MANSA repository platform, which was held on the 30th of November, 2020. It was held virtually, and we listened to the great minds, the different interventions. We have a serious gap in the continent when it comes to due diligence matters. We saw the de-risking, we saw the flight of all non-African financial institutions from the continent. I wouldn't want to go that deep into that because we all know it. Today we are going to talk about the implementation of the MANSA repository platform. We've had a series of this webinar in this region. In Kenya, we worked with Metropole, which is actually one of our agencies. We worked with them, co-organized a similar webinar to educate our different public in that region, in this region. We also had the opportunity to discuss when there was, when KEPSA, another entity, I think the Chambers of Commerce, in Kenya, when they organized this webinar, a similar webinar. We also had the opportunity to showcase MANSA when we worked with SDGCA, Sustainable Development Goals Center for Africa. Together, we again showcased the MANSA repository platform, talking about its origin, what it is. Today, we are talking about implementation. We are asking every entities, you now know MANSA repository platform. You now know what MANSA is about to do in the continent. We are all asking all of you, MANSA is designed to change the style, to change the ways we do business in Africa. MANSA is a game changer. MANSA provides that answer to our different due diligence queries and challenges we have in the continent. When I listened to my earlier colleagues who spoke, and I saw that we have those challenges, which actually, if we have the proper instruments and tools, like the MANSA repository in place, we wouldn't have those challenges. Your bank, Afreximbank, has actually come a long way, working with different institutions, different regional organizations, to provide solutions in the different challenges facing our continent. We talked about guarantee scheme, we talked about trade information portal, we talked about PAPs, we talked about, and so on and so forth. What are we trying to do? We're trying to make Africa great again. We're trying to let the world know that Africa is now looking inwards and actually looking at those challenges facing it and bringing out solutions. Today, MANSA will create visibility to your business. MANSA will assist you to grow your business. MANSA will provide you that opportunity of accessing international financing and even domestic financing. MANSA will also promote and increase intra-African trade under the new AfTA regime. Because again, you will agree with me that we don't have trust dealing with ourselves, trading amongst ourselves. We don't do that. Somebody was telling me a few days ago, oh, we're importing flowers from London because there's going to be a funeral. And I just laughed and said, do you know that those flowers were actually exported? London imports flour from Kenya, Zimbabwe, or you don't know that? Then he said, no, these are, I said, well, I don't need to argue with you because we actually, as an export-import bank, we fund some of these transactions. But this is what I'm telling you, take it or leave it. So you can see that we are endowed with riches. Incidentally, that trust is not there. And this is one of the challenges MANSA will address. We are talking about how do we go about MANSA? How do we now start onboarding ourselves on MANSA? MANSA, like you know, has 3 pillars. It has the KYC CDD pillar, it has the Invest in Africa pillar, it has the News and Events. It has 3 main players. You have the contributors, which of course are the customers who voluntarily upload their information on the platform. And of course, you have the verifier. After the contributor must have gone through the maker checker, the information now goes to the verifier, who verifies that information before it is now forwarded to Afreximbank to validate and publish. Of course, you agree with me that the MANSA is a centralized due diligence repository, web-based, self-onboarding. So it's a one-stop shop for you to do your transactions. It's playing, MANSA will play a lot of role in the PAP system, in the trade information portal, even in the virtual VTF, the virtual trade platform. It's going, the MANSA will play a lot of role. Because once you go on MANSA, you have your information, you upload your information, you have your AEI already, which is Africa Entity Identifier. You have it already allotted to you. It's automatically allotted to your profile. And with that, once you go for any, you go to PAPS, it asks you, are you MANSA verified? If you are MANSA verified, provide your identity code. And once you do it, your business, even if you are a buyer or a supplier, your transaction will be done in a twinkle of an eye. And you wouldn't go through the rigors of looking for KYC information, or how do I know this customer? How do I know this supplier? You don't have to go through the rigors because MANSA has already provided you those information. Today, we know information is gold. MANSA is Africa's new gold. Because what we're trying to do is to make sure that we also, in as much as we know our financial institutions are actually working with different customers. Our corporate entities are the large corporates. Our SMEs, they've not gotten that exposure. They've not gotten that visibility. And that is what MANSA is doing today. Trying to provide you that visibility, provide you that exposure, make your business known, and help you grow that business. So with that information, we are trying to see how much can we start assisting you to institutionalize your business by making sure you have all the information required. The MANSA platform today has about 6 segments. When you go on the MANSA, www.mansaafrica.com, it will give you the homepage and the narratives. By the time you say you want to register, it asks you a question. Are you a subscriber, contributor, or a verifier? You say you are a contributor. It will ask you certain questions. Are you registered? If you are not registered, it takes you through the process of your registration. Boarding the MANSA repository platform is free. You are not subjected to any fee to contribute your information on the MANSA platform. MANSA is built for Africans by Africans. It's for us to actually embrace it. The moment you feed your information, the first segment will ask you, who are you? Where are you located? What are your details? In terms of your email address, your physical address, your phone numbers. Then it takes you to the second segment, which asks, who are the shareholders of your business? Even if it's a one-man business, even if it's a family business, it's not trying to probe you. It's trying to help you to grow your business. The moment you impute those information on the platform, it takes you to the third pillar, which asks you the question, what is your management style? If you don't have a management, probably you are running your business on your own. At least with that type of question, it will tell you that you need to, even if you want to get one expert, if you are putting bolts and nuts together, just like Mercedes started, with nuts and bolts together, a one-man business. Today, Mercedes has grown to be a global name, a conglomerate. If you don't ride a Mercedes car, then you're not there. But it started with one man. So this is how our entrepreneurs, our small and medium scale enterprises, this is how they start. From putting nuts and bolts together, then you start growing and coming out of your shell. MANSA will help you to do that. Then it goes to the fourth one, which asks the question, how are your financials like? If you are an SME, we know you don't have financials, but you have your management account or you have your bank statement, which you can provide to support. Because any would-be investors will look at for certain information. And if they don't have most of this information, they may not feel comfortable doing business with you. Remember, the issue there is lack of information about African entities, the huge cost of doing compliance in the continent. You cannot trust the entity. So you can imagine with this type of information provided on the MANSA platform, you are good to go. Because anybody that sees it, sees what? Sees transparency in a business. And then you move to the other item, which talks to your AML KYC situation. And those AML, anti-money laundering questions, they're just asking you, are you a politically exposed person? You say yes or no. Have you once been caught funding terrorism and all those questions? You said no. So once you answer those questions on the platform, and you at the end you sign off to say, to the best of your knowledge, all this information provided are correct. Then you go to the other one, which talks about what type of business are you into? Are you a petty trader? Are you into supply? Are you into trading across the regions? Are you into oil and gas? Are you into telecom services? depending on what sector of the economy you are, you just put it down. Then there's the last one, which talks to any other. Probably you have been awarded certain awards for being an excellent producer of coffee. Probably you've been recognized to be one of the exporters of any product you are into, and you want to showcase it on the MANSA platform because that will be a value added to your product, and that's any will be investor seeing that we quickly grabbed that and said, wow, this entity is doing well and I need to go there, or this entity is not doing well, I need to support this entity. So these are the segments, the different basic information that you require to satisfy on the MANSA platform to enable you start being a user and to expose your business to any investor and provide that investment climate any entity is looking for to invest in Africa. Having said this, today we are engaging with different entities. Like I said, we've already held similar webinars with different entities in the continent. We are doing today with KEPSA, we've done with SDGCA, we did with ministries of trades, we did with different entities, chambers of commerce, stock exchanges. We've been actually engaging. Now, AI gives you that opportunity, provides you that opportunity to ensure that your businesses across the continent is secured. Now we have the legal entity identifier also on the platform. And with the recent G20 policy, which states that every entity trading or transacting business globally has to have that LEI, legal entity identifier. The global legal identifier, they've actually approached MANSA. We are already advanced discussions with them. They want to partner with us. They said they have presence only in 2 countries in Africa, and those countries are Nigeria and South Africa. So they see us working together to promote their presence in the continent. Remember that your business is growing and you have to actually move. And for that, I think when we are there, we see that we have that growth in our business, then it gives us that impetus to start asking, trying to see how can we expand our business? How can we gain access to international financing? MANSA will help you. As we speak, there are institutions that are already coming to us, asking us how they can assist us by granting loans to entities in Africa. And they have come to us because they see that MANSA has that centralized repository that they can click. If we give them any name, they go on the platform and search to see the credibility of that institution before they can say, okay, we are offering this to that entity. So you stand to be a big beneficiary of of many opportunities within and outside the continent. So MANSA provides you all those information. We are now asking you, to all of you, to hook up to the MANSA repository platform. Make sure you impute your information on the MANSA platform and embrace MANSA. Make MANSA a household name in Africa. Embrace MANSA and make sure all your information are on the platform to give you that visibility, give you that transparency, enable you to again access international financing, both within and outside and within Africa. And of course, MANSA will play a very great role in the coming of in the emergence of the African Free Trade Continental Agreement. So today, we are all coming to you. We are all asking you to please embrace MANSA. Be the ambassadors of MANSA. Upload your information on MANSA, and you will stand to gain the numerous benefits of the MANSA repository platform. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maureen, for that comprehensive intervention, which went a very long way in providing clarity around the MANSA platform and demonstrating the potential that it has to change the narrative in terms of how business is done in Africa. I think that transparency is the key word here, and with MANSA bringing that into the marketplace, there's no doubt that attitudes will change, and in the short to medium term, we will start to see volumes of trade go up. I will now quickly go to the Q&A session. In the interest of time, we cannot really spend more than just a couple of minutes. So I'll take one or two questions, and then straight after, we will go to Mr. Nick Nesbitt, who will then provide us with opening remarks for KEPSA. So let me take, I have a question around access to the trade information portal. And the underlying question is whether or not this product is going to be served for free to the public, or if there is a pricing model around that. So I'll ask Lizanne to take that question, please.
We are exploring a freemium pricing strategy. So there will be certain basic features on the portal available for all users for free. Of course, we as a development finance institution understand the vast information needs, particularly for SMEs. So yes, we have factored that. But of course, the portal needs to be sustainable. So certain higher value information will be accessible through a subscription-based model. But just to underscore that, yes, freemium for certain basic features. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we'll move to Mr. Nesbitt's presentation, because I understand that he does have to go. So Mr. Nesbitt is, as I said previously, I think I already introduced him. He currently serves as the chairman of Kenya's Private Sector Alliance, KEPSA. So I wouldn't do another intro. I'll just hand straight over to you, sir. Mr. Nesbitt, over to you. Thank you.
Can you hear me this time?
Yes, I can.
And can you see me also?
I can hear you. I can't see you yet, but now I can see you. Yes, I can see you now.
Now you can see me. Okay. There we go. Good. Second time lucky. Our guests from the Africa Import Bank, private sector leaders, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Apologies about the technical hitch earlier. I had to refresh my connection, and that seemed to have done the job. But we as Kenya Private Sector Alliance are pleased to join you in this webinar to engage on deepening trade under the AfCFTA and the products offered by Afreximbank in support of businesses to support the FTA. So KEPSA has previously partnered and collaborated with the bank during the inaugural intra-African trade fair in 2018, and together with the Export Promotion Council in Kenya, which is now called the Export Promotion and Branding Agency, we hosted a seminar to sensitize Kenyan businesses on the free trade agreement and strategies to deepen Kenya-African trade. And therefore, we welcome this opportunity to engage with the bank today again. Thank you very much. We're very pleased to hear of the extensive suite of products available to our local and regional businesses, including the portals described earlier today, and even the Africa Logistics Tool. It's all very impressive, and we certainly accept your invitation to engage with your Kampala office. And also, I want to say thank you for the launch of your virtual trade fair. You're right, it's very difficult to engage in trade in these trying times, and therefore having access to a virtual trade fair like this is something very welcome, and we encourage our members to sign up. All very well said regarding the challenges and opportunities so far in these challenging times. And we agree that one of the biggest challenges we face in developing Africa really is the lack of regional trade, which is something we all need to address. And we're very encouraged by the potential that the free trade agreement brings and the ability to become the answer, as was stated earlier, the one showing how to bring regional prosperity and improve lives on the continent. Within the continent, intra-regional trade is estimated to be between 16 and 18%, whereas in the EU, it is up to 62%, in Asia 57%, and in America 55%. We have a long way to go. This low level of intra-regional trade within Africa is driven from a macro level, I'd say, by poor regional integration, the lack of harmonized trade rules, cross-border restrictions, and poor transport and logistics networks, among others. From a business standpoint, these low levels of intra-regional trade are driven by the business's lack of required human capacity and their poor access to affordable financing. It's also driven by weak market linkages and the high cost of doing business. And there are just all kinds of risks throughout the trade corridors, all of which affect local companies' competitiveness. In Kenya's case, for example, Africa accounts for 38% of its exports, and the EAC accounts for, let's say, only 24%. However, fortunately, unlike its trade with other foreign markets, the regional and Pan-Africa trade is fairly balanced, and this offers numerous opportunities for local SMEs, manufacturers, and service providers. So we're glad that the Afreximbank, the AU, and other partners are working to address both the macro and business level challenges. KEPSA fully supports these initiatives and remains open to partner and support the process wherever possible. Through AfCFTA's industrialization agenda a reality, through improving human capacity, increasing trade, and improving regional value chain linkages. This will improve our self-sufficiency, reduce the susceptibility to international market shocks that has been experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic, and accelerate our social and economic transformation. In our case, at KEPSA, we're currently working on many initiatives, all focused on increasing the capacity of the Kenyan businesses and improving the domestic and international trade environment. And of course, we can certainly always do more, and certainly will continue to do that. For example, KEPSA is supporting local SMEs through a number of programs, such as providing financing in partnership with the MasterCard Foundation. In this particular program, we're offering interest-free in 6 months. We're offering technical, especially for women and youth-owned businesses. And we're in digital skills and job opportunities through a program called Ajira, an online platform that gives people access to the gig economy. In addition, we're working with our largest companies to set up programs where they support smaller SMEs in their supply and distribution chains. It's only through developing local skills, encouraging local content, and giving back that our local companies will get the skills to grow into workers. From a business environment standpoint, KEPSA is helping to improve the country's domestic ease of doing business by working with targeted ministries and parliament to simplify government processes and regulations. We're helping to eliminate the constantly emerging non-tariff barriers by working very closely with the East African community through the East African Business Council, and we're actively participating as well in negotiations with the United States and the UK on agreements with those countries. So in closing, KEPSA remains very bullish about the future of trade in the region, and are particularly excited by the possibilities that the AfCFTA brings to Africa. We're excited by the possibilities that one of our leaders in Kenya is leading across the continent to promote and develop the infrastructure that will be required to connect our different African countries. We're also encouraged by the work that's been done on freeing up the skies, open skies, to make it possible for people to fly from one country to the next much more affordably without such high taxation. And we're also encouraged by the work that is happening to reduce the cost of telecommunications between countries, and also when people roam from one country to the next. And it's only if we can have our individual and respective countries connect to each other better through land, sea, air, and digitally that we'll really be able to realize the goals of this free trade agreement. So I would like to thank you, Afreximbank, for the session today, and it's very clear how seriously you are taking this agreement. With these few comments, let me thank you for the time this morning and wish everyone a very constructive and progressive rest of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Mr. Nesbitt, for those very insightful remarks. I think, as you rightly highlighted, the low level of intra-Africa trade in Africa today is one of the primary reasons why the development and expansion of intra-Africa trade is the arrowhead of Afreximbank's medium-term strategy, led by Mrs. Kanayo Awani. And in light of the priorities that you've highlighted for KEPSA, I think the potential for collaboration with Afreximbank is clearly boundless. So thank you very much for that. I think our next presenter is my colleague and brother, Gainmore Zanamwe, who will provide us with an overview of the various Afreximbank initiatives that have been instituted to support the AfCFTA. Gainmore is a senior manager under Afreximbank's intra-Africa trade initiative, where he is responsible for trade facilitation. Prior to Afreximbank, he worked as the regional trade advisor under the Commonwealth Secretariat, where he provided support on various initiatives, including industrialization, private sector development, and trade policy advocacy, amongst others. Gainmore, over to you, please.
Good morning to everybody. I'll just quickly go through some of the key initiatives that support the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. And these are some of the issues that I will focus on. So I'll start by probably highlighting, just emphasizing the importance of this FTA, in the sense that it has created this big market opportunity, which is actually set to grow to a market of about 2.5 billion by 2050. So if you look at what we are going, where we are going, it's very clear that Africa will be a big force to reckon with in the future, because if you look at the magnitude of this market size that is created by the CFTA, it will make a number of things that were not possible before to be viable in the infrastructure space, in the industrialization space, and it will also help us to develop regional value chains and increase intra-African trade. So recognizing the importance and the magnitude of this market size, the bank, as was highlighted by MD earlier on, developed a range of financial products and instruments that we are now using to support the private sector, like KEPSA, to be able to benefit from the CFTA. And I will highlight some of these initiatives, and I will leave you with the presentation. So I will not go in detail due to the time constraints, but I'll just flag some of the issues that I think are very critical for KEPSA. The first issue that I want to highlight is the AfCFTA adjustment facility. The adjustment facility is a supporting instrument that is aimed at assisting governments to deal with tariff revenue losses when they liberalize trade in goods. Currently, all the African countries are finalizing their market access offers, and a number of countries are going to lose revenue, but these are short-term revenue losses. So in the short period, some countries may require support for them to be able to cope with the adjustment to tariff revenue losses, because they will still need the revenue to fund other government initiatives. So in that context, the bank has developed the adjustment facility to provide that support to the public sector. The adjustment facility will also assist private sector companies and members of KEPSA to develop competitiveness, to upgrade your productive capacity, to diversify your production, and you may even want to import new equipment and also raw materials that you can actually use to develop products or services that you can actually trade under the CFTA. There may be a need for retooling, training some of the workers that may be affected. So this is basically the context in which we have instituted this adjustment facility. And the facility basically is structured as follows. It has got the public sector and the private sector window. It deals with revenue loss. It also assists the government to undertake some reforms and comply with some of the obligations that are in the CFTA. For example, there may be a need to do customs reforms. Some of the countries may actually need to establish institutions to deal with trade remedies or to address the rules of origin issues. And we are looking at both debt, which could be at commercial or concessional level. We are looking at grants. We are looking at even contributions from the member states or import levies. So that's basically the adjustment facility, and we look forward to working with KEPSA, especially the private sector that have got an interest in accessing funding under the adjustment facility. We are currently working with the AU to develop the statutes and the resource mobilization plan, but the bank has already put $1 billion US, which is available for use right now as we speak. So if there are any companies from the KEPSA membership that are interested in accessing this facility, please feel free to contact us. We'll be happy to facilitate. Then the second initiative that I want to talk to is also something that is very critical for supporting the implementation of the CFTA. It is the Afreximbank African Collaborative Transit Guarantee Scheme. Forget about the long name, just focus on what the facility does. We know that in many countries, there is basically a lot of trade that is taking place through transit. Either goods are coming from the ports, going into the hinterland, transiting via a number of countries, or some, let's call them land-linked countries, not land-locked. They will be also trying to export their product, and the goods have to pass through various countries. What normally happens is that at each and every border, the customs authorities require a transit bond to assure them that the goods don't disappear into the local market. Yeah, sometimes these goods, they've got a knack of disappearing into the domestic market and not going to where they are supposed to go. So to address that challenge, we've actually designed the transit guarantee scheme, which will give assurance to the customs authorities that in the unfortunate event that the goods disappear into the local market, we will guarantee the customs duties that are at stake. But what we are also saying to the customs authorities is that they should allow goods to move through the transit countries to their intended destination. And what that does is it facilitates trade it reduces the delays, it also reduces the long lines at border posts. I know Kenya is part of the EAC, is also part of KEPSA, which is already implementing the transit guarantee scheme. And we are already working with KEPSA. We just concluded the negotiations to join the KEPSA Regional Customs Transit Guarantee Scheme to boost the capacity of the insurance companies in EAC, in KEPSA, in Kenya, to have the capacity to issue transit bonds. So I'm basically appealing to KEPSA to work with us and identify those potential insurance companies or banks that want to do more in terms of issuing transit bonds. The bank is basically ready to work with you. We will ensure that we provide the capacity to issue a single transit bond, which will enable goods to move from one country throughout the transit regions and ensure that we minimize the delays. Just to probably give you a good example of what I'm talking about, this is the continent. And if you look at all these routes within the continent, the routes that I'm mainly interested in from an intra-African point of view are the intra-African trade routes. Of course, yes, the routes from the ports to the outside markets are important. But what is critical for intra-African trade are these routes where you move goods from Cape Town to Cairo. If you look at this route, there is a possibility of having a truck actually to move from Cape all the way to Cairo. And we don't want that truck to be stopped unnecessarily because of transit bonds. We want that truck to be able to move with just one single transit bond. So that's basically the key thing that we are highlighting. And this is the example that I was actually talking about. So a truck should be able to move all the way from Cape to Cairo with a transit bond. And this will facilitate trade under the CFTA. So again, we look forward to working with KEPSA and all the insurance companies and banks in Kenya, East Africa to implement the transit guarantee scheme. The other instrument that I want to highlight is the Export Trading Companies Initiative. I know, for example, in East Africa, there are a number of informal cross-border traders that carry maybe 100 or 200 US dollars running around trying to cross the border to trade. I also know that there are a lot of SMEs that are struggling to export even in the context of the EAC market or KEPSA. And now we have the CFTA. There are also even big companies, big corporates, big members of KEPSA who are trying to export within the continent, but probably they don't have the market intelligence. They don't even know where they could actually export their product. Through the Export Trading Companies Initiative, we will be able to actually provide support in terms of aggregating products from smallholder farmers, from SMEs, from informal cross-border traders, and even from the big companies using these export trading companies, and they can take them to the market. They will be able to deal with volumes. Then you have economies of scale. They have the capacity to deal with all the challenges that are faced by traders when they are trying to export. This is not a new concept. Export trading companies played a vital role in Asia. We know that Marubeni, Mitsui, Mitsubishi, Toyota, they all started as export trading companies, and they played a vital role in terms of catalyzing industrialization in Asia. So it's the same concept that we want to apply within the continent and use these export trading companies to facilitate trade under the CFTA. The bank has basically developed a strategy on export trading companies, which provides a range of financing and facilitation services. So we want to work with KEPSA members. I think maybe it's a good idea that those companies under KEPSA that may be interested in establishing export trading companies, you can actually approach us. We can work with you. We can handhold you to ensure that you can actually establish some of these export trading companies. And we provide a range of support to ensure that we have these companies, maybe in Kenya, another one in Nigeria, Egypt, South Africa, so that we also develop a network of these export trading companies that can facilitate trade under the CFTA. We are also developing a model regulatory framework which will harmonize all the rules and the regulations to support the export trading companies. So this is another initiative that I think will be of use to KEPSA members. And of course, we all know that infrastructure is a major challenge. If you also look at the map of the routes that I've shown you there, that route from Cape to Cairo, some of the roads, they've not been paved. So there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to actually improve the infrastructure, the roads, the railways, the ports, the bridges, one-stop border posts. So this is something that has to be done, and the bank is already doing something in this space. We are working with a number of partners to put in place the trade enabling infrastructure. We want to avoid a situation that you are seeing on the right side, where with this kind of roads, we will not be able to push intra-African trade. So we need to ensure that we have the requisite infrastructure that will support trade. And it's not just the hard infrastructure. We need to focus also on the soft infrastructure, the single windows, the customs issues, the transit issues that I talked about, logistics, warehouses. All those issues are very important. And talking about truck stops, so we are basically trying to avoid the chaos that you see on the left, and you have some form of organization, as you can see on the right side. So another important instrument that we also have is the Africa Quality Assurance Centers. And these are basically testing, certification, and inspection services that we provide to test or assure the market or consumers that the goods and services that have been produced are of good quality, they are safe to consume. We have had a lot of products that are facing rejection in European markets, in the US, because of lack of compliance with standards. Even within the continent, we've had cases of products being rejected because they don't meet standards. And even when Kenya is trying to send milk to Zambia, Zambia will say we've got different standards. So we need to harmonize the standards. We need to ensure that there are labs that are able to test and verify that the milk from Kenya meets the requirements of the Zambian market. So these are some of the things that we are trying to do, and we are already building these labs in Nigeria. We've got another one in Ethiopia, Tanzania, and we look forward to also working with Kenya and identify opportunities for building these Africa Quality Assurance Centers to facilitate trade under the CFTA. I've already spoken about harmonization of standards. We have already done some work with the AU and the African Standardization Organization in the automotive sector. And we are also working on standards in the medical equipment and pharmaceutical sector. We look forward to also working with KEPSA, EAC, COMESA, and the CFTA to ensure that all the national, regional standards are harmonized at the national level. Because right now, you have got 55 national standards. That is a disaster for trade to take place under the CFTA. So we need to harmonize these standards so that with one standard, we can replace these 55 standards and get goods moving under the CFTA, because most of the non-tariff barriers that we actually have, they are in the area of standards. The other issue that I want to highlight briefly is the importance of the automotive sector in terms of supporting the CFTA. We know all the challenges affecting the sector. I will not go into those, But I want to highlight that if we were to work together as a continent and develop the automotive sector, it actually has the potential to catalyze the development of other sectors, such as leather and textiles, the glass, the steel sector. And as you probably may be aware, a single car has more than 30,000 components. And this provides enormous opportunities for developing regional value chains. And with this background, we actually developed an automotive strategy working with the African Association of Automotive Manufacturers. And the strategy focuses on development of regional value chains. It focuses on building policy capacity at the national, regional, and the continental level, and providing automotive finance to support the development of the industry within the continent. We have seen that this can be done in ASEAN. ASEAN actually developed the automotive industry, and they used the ASEAN Free Trade Agreement to develop their industry. And there is nothing that will stop us from doing the same within the continent. We can actually develop a Pan-African Auto Pact where all the players can actually work together in a collaborative fashion and promote the regional value chains. If we do this, we may actually increase the market for new vehicles from 1 million to about 5 million. And that will actually create opportunities for trading under the CFTA, where both the big and small countries can benefit. Some of the smaller countries could be supplying components. And this is where Kenya actually needs to work with its regional partners, as well as other countries within the continent, to support the development of the automotive industry. And the other initiative that I want to highlight is the training on how to export, as was highlighted by MD in the introduction. So we are basically training SMEs and corporates on how to export under the CFTA. This is a very practical training which will provide practical information on how to maneuver the rules under the CFTA, the rules of origin, the other requirements under the CFTA. And we are starting, of course, with Rwanda, Nigeria, and Cote d'Ivoire, but the training will also be rolled to Kenya in 2021. And I also want to highlight briefly the industrial parks. This is also another initiative that the bank is actually working on. We are putting hard and soft infrastructure to support the industrialization agenda, especially the production of value-added products, light manufacturers, agro-processing. We've got a vast resources that we need to add value. We don't have to continue exporting these commodities outside the continent in an unprocessed manner. We need to add value so that we've got goods that we can actually trade with each other within the continent. So we are already doing a number of industrial parks within the continent with a selected number of people. We have also been engaging with Kenya to see if we can support some industrial parks, and we look forward to working with Kenya to identify any potential industrial parks that we can actually support. Then the other initiative that I want to talk about before I conclude, I think it was also a component of the Africa Trade Gateway, is the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. PAPS is also going to play a vital role in terms of supporting the CFTA, and it will actually promote trade in local currencies, and this will actually stop some of the trade that is being diverted outside the continent by virtue of lack of forex. So we are actually working with West Africa, the 6 countries in West African Monetary Zone, to pilot the PAPS, but it is actually a continental payment infrastructure that will also be rolled out to the other African countries. And it is actually going to play a vital role in terms of facilitating trade under the CFTA. It will reduce the transaction costs and make sure that trade under the CFTA is efficient. So I want to conclude by inviting KEPSA members to work with the bank to utilize the range of products and interventions that we have to support its members to be able to derive maximum benefit from the CFTA. And as President Obasanjo remarked in 2016, he said that unless Africa increases intra-African trade to at least 50% of its total trade, it will not be fully liberated. So we count on KEPSA to help us to remove the shackles of this colonial yoke that we have to ensure that we increase trade under the CFTA. And I want to conclude by saying Asante Sana. I've seen some tracks written Asante Sana. I also know that our former president, in his last farewell speech, he said Asante Sana. I don't know what that means, but Asante Sana to KEPSA. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gainmore, for characteristically detailed and elaborate intervention. There is no doubt at all that those instruments that you've just outlined, the adjustment facility, the transit guarantee scheme, export trading company, ACA, in the Africa Quality Assurance Center, all of those things are extremely bold and very potent instruments that can directly confront the harder barriers that we face in Africa as far as trade is concerned. We'll do a very quick Q&A for Gainmore's presentation now. As usual, please type your question in the Q&A box at the bottom. But in the interest of time, I probably wouldn't be able to take more than one or two questions because we're running behind at the moment. But as I said before, we will revert on every single question. The ones we can't take live now, we'll respond to by. So, first question for you today, Gainmore, is around the adjustment facility. The audience would like to know how it is priced, if there is a differential between pricing for the public and the private sector, and what the funding limits are in each instance, and what drives those funding limits. So it's a bit of a loaded question, but it's essentially asking you to give you a little bit more detail around workings of the adjustment facility. Gainmore? Can you hear me, Gainmore?
Can I go ahead?
Yes, please. Yes, please go ahead.
All right. Yes. Yes. The adjustment. Yes, the adjustment facility covers both the public and the private sector. And in terms of pricing, is basically a function of the credit risk. So what you can do is you submit your application to us, right? Us will give you our details, or you can contact us through Mr. Kudakwashe, who is our regional chief operating officer based in Uganda. You can provide your details there, and then we can work with you. We can discuss your transaction. We look at your requirements, and then we'll give you more details. So that's basically what I can say in terms of the pricing and whether there will be a differentiation between the rates for the public and private sector. We can discuss all those details. We are here to share with you our terms and conditions for the facility. So please feel free to contact us. We'll be glad to assist you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gainmore. Another question, this time around export trading companies. So some of the smaller businesses are keen to understand how Afreximbank can facilitate access to an ETC for them. So I think you were clear about the fact that the bank is promoting the emergence of export trading companies. However, for smaller producers who want to access these ETCs, is there a mechanism in place that the bank can use to make those connections?
Okay, thank you, Odi. I think that's a great question. And so for SMEs to be able to trade, they will actually they are better off aggregating their products and working through an export trading company. So what we're actually doing right now is facilitate the emergence and expansion of export trading companies. There are some export trading companies that already exist, but we also want to establish other companies, probably either as private ETCs or public-private companies that will also be sensitive to the needs and the requirements of SMEs, so that SMEs can also have access to those export trading companies. That's why I send also an open invitation to some of the KEPSA members who may be interested in working with the bank to actually establish this new breed of ETCs that can also be sensitive to the needs of SMEs. But there are already some existing ETCs that are operating. We can also introduce you to some of those to be able to support you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Gemo. Thank you. I think we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is a presentation around KEPSA's intervention with regards to youth entrepreneurship. Now, many schools of thought portray Africa's youth bulge as a ticking time, while others consider the 400 and between 35 as the continent's against the backdrop. The next speaker is Dr. Ehud Gachugu, who will be discussing the private sector support of youth business and more specifically the KEPSA Youth Empowerment Program. Dr. Kajugu is an accomplished please go on mute.
Good afternoon. I hope you can hear me. And apologies for the technical here.
Dr. Gachugo, I can't hear you. If you can hear me, I suggest hit the F5 button to refresh the platform. At this point, I can't hear you and I can't see you.
So I'll want to
I think we're losing Dr. Ehud Gachugu. Dr. Gachugu, if you can hear me, can I suggest that you refresh by hitting F5? If I can't hear you, I think the chances are that most of the rest of the audience can't either. Josie, are you able to hear me properly? Josie, Vashni, are you able to hear me?
Greeting, esteemed guests. Thank you for joining us on our IATF Virtual Roadshow. My name is Janice Costa. I'm Head of Sales and Sponsorship for the Inter-Africa Trade Fair that will be taking place from the 6th to the 12th September 2021 in Kigali, Rwanda. Afreximbank, in collaboration with the African Union and the government of the Republic of Rwanda, will host the second edition of the Inter-Africa Trade Fair under the theme Building Bridges for a Successful AfCFTA. Inter-Africa Trade Fair is the key event boosting trade in Africa. No other event brings together more professionals under one roof. In 2021, IATF's theme will focus on the newly launched African Continental Free Trade Area, a single market for goods and services across 55 countries aimed at boosting trade and investment. The Inter-Africa Trade Fair 2021 will provide a unique and valuable platform for businesses to access an integrated African market of over 1.2 billion people with a combined GDP of over $2.5 trillion created under the African Continental Free Trade Area. We're going to focus on bringing together continental and global players who are seeking business and investment opportunities in Africa. We will serve as a marketplace where buyers and sellers can meet and continue to explore various business opportunities. We will provide a platform for B2G and B2b networking and development of business opportunities. We will share trade and investment and market information to identify solutions while addressing challenges affecting intra-Africa trade. We will also use this opportunity to share information about Afreximbank initiatives, trade finance, and trade facilitation interventions. The first edition of IATF in 2018 attracted well over 2,500 conference delegates, over 1,000 exhibitors from over 45 countries, resulting in over $32 billion worth of trade and investment deals that were closed at the event. The second edition of the Inter-Africa Trade Fair is expected to be even bigger and aims to attract 5,000 conference delegates and over 1,100 exhibitors, including over 10,000 visitors and buyers from over 55 countries who will engage to grow trade and investment on the African continent, and more than $40 billion in trade and investment deals are being targeted at IATF 2021. The key components of our second edition is our exhibition, our trade and investment forum, the virtual trade fair, our Creative Africa Nexus program, B2b and B2G exchanges, country days, IATF automotive show, and our youth startup program. The exhibition will offer an opportunity for you to showcase your goods and services. It will provide a platform for countries and companies to identify credible partners that can facilitate foreign direct investment flows necessary for expanding Africa's productive capacity. The exhibition will cover multiple sectors and run for the full 7 days. This will include speed networking, matchmaking, a hosted buyers program, workshops, and many more. The Trade and Investment Conference this year will address topical issues relating to trade, finance, payments, trade facilitation, trade enabling infrastructure, harmonization of trade standards, industrialization, regional value chains, and investment. There will also be an opportunity for training exporters on how to access the African market and twinning arrangements with other African or global entities. Our virtual trade fair, which we are now, enables virtual participation by buyers and sellers in the trade fair as a 365-day, 24/7 platform, reigniting economies and allowing inter-Africa trade to continue. The virtual trade fair has virtual booths, hosts webinars, and facilitates virtual engagement between buyers and sellers. The IATF is an innovative and cost-effective platform to promote, educate, and sell your products and services to larger audiences of key players. We also have our merchandising and our marketplace store, and this is an opportunity for you to purchase official IATF merchandise, as well as an opportunity for exhibitors to use the platform through the IATF marketplace to sell your products online. Then we have our very exciting Creative Africa Nexus program. This will showcase Africa's creative economy. The program will showcase the creative economy in Africa over 7 days, including a 2-day Creative Africa Nexus Summit, 7-day exhibition with a dedicated area to the creative sector, masterclasses, fashion shows, and many more. Countries have been invited to bid for the Country Day feature. There are only 5 country days available, and selected countries will have the opportunity to showcase their trade, investment, and tourism cultural opportunities. Currently, Day 1 is dedicated to the host country, Rwanda, and the other countries who have taken up the invite have been Ghana and Ivory Coast. A dedicated area in our exhibition will focus on automotive, and this will be the automotive's opportunity to showcase what the continent has to offer through various networking opportunities, meetings, and workshops. A very exciting addition to our program is going to be the Youth Starter Program. This is going to have a dedicated pavilion which is just for the youth startups in Africa, where they will showcase their goods and services. IATF 2021 will provide an opportunity for the youth for matchmaking with venture capitalists, entrepreneurship training, networking amongst the youth and other important delegates. This will give the youth a voice on IATF. The communication channels we're using for IATF is communicated through multiple channels across multiple continents. The campaign includes ongoing promotions about the various components of the event through media buying platforms, including TV and digital, social media, virtual trade fair, which we are now, and network engagements through live events across the world. There are various opportunities for you to take advantage of through IATF 2021. You can get your brand associated with a captive audience who could be your next big business opportunity. IATF and its affiliates are recognized as thought leaders with networks that reach far and wide. We have various customized sponsorship opportunities for you. You could be a big business or a small business. We do have a right package for you. As a partner, you will benefit from branding rights, access to over 1,000 buyers, 10,000 visitors, over 1,100 exhibitors, over 55 African governments, over 20 international governments, and this is the platform where you can meet these guys. We will have the global hosted buyers and investors as well. How do you participate? Very simple. You can either sign up for a virtual trade fair booth immediately, which will give you access to all the markets for 365 days of the year for a very small amount of $750 per annum. Or you may sign up for an exhibition booth to take part in our trade exhibition in Kigali, Rwanda next year. Or you may sign up as a visitor or a delegate, and you may do that online immediately. Or you may take the opportunity to take one of our sponsorship packages. Should you have any questions, please feel free to contact us directly. We're more than happy to assist you with any information you may require. Our social media pages are constantly updated for the most up-to-date information, and we look forward to seeing you in Kigali, September 2021. I am just going to play you a short video to just give you a good feel of what will be happening next year. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and we really look forward to you joining us in Kigali 2021. Thank you.
Join Africa's largest trade and...
Who is an accomplished youth employment specialist with 20 years of professional and technical experience in youth workforce development. Currently, Dr. Ehud leads KEPSA's operation of the Ajira Digital Project, which is a Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs program funded by the MasterCard Foundation, which seeks to support youth access to digital and digitally enabled jobs in Kenya. Mr. Gachugu, or Dr. Gachugu, I should say, equally leads KEPSA's youth employment operations, spanning from skills development, entrepreneurship, labor market intermediation services, learning collaboration, and adaptation, amongst others. Dr. Ehud has also worked as Deputy Chief of the Party, or Deputy Chief of Party and Senior Technical Advisor at USAID Kenya, and has also been Project Director for the World Bank, amongst other positions. Dr. Ehud, I'll hand the floor over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Odi, and allow me to share my screen so that we can be able to work together. So I'll quickly share my screen. First and foremost, I must say that we are very grateful as an organization for this opportunity to speak in this very important forum where trade issues are being discussed. And we find trade as critical to the work we do, especially in promoting youth employment. So allow me to go straight to the work that you're doing on youth employment. And so I would want to start by saying KEPSA aspiration is to become a global thought leader and solution to youth employment. As such, we apply a very holistic approach to youth employment, which sits at the core of our work, which is to promote economic growth and job creation in the country. We do appreciate the fact that the challenge we are tackling is very complex. On one hand, requiring us to make sure that young people are working, are creating businesses and generating income on a regular basis, but on the other hand, tackling the systemic challenges that do face young people in entering the labor market. So KEPSA has an opportunity of a wide range of partnerships and access to various opportunities in the country. So we have access to supply, we have access to the policies as front, as well as demand side of the labor market. And as such, we use our capability to drive our strategy, which is hitched on 5 key areas. Number one is to promote KEPSA and private sector as thought leader and think tank for youth employment in Kenya and in sub-Saharan Africa. The second area that we are focusing on is on development of national and regional platform for innovative youth solutions. The other one is KEPSA as a learning lab on youth employment programming, and also catalyzing growth of new and promising approaches to youth employment. And lastly, we support implementation of strategic and targeted youth employment interventions in the country. We do this in collaboration with the private sector, as well as government and development partners. So allow me now to quickly highlight some of the projects that we've been implementing. And I will start with the Kenya Youth Employment and Empowerment Program, which is a World Bank funded program. And this program primarily focused on training young people on different technical skills, including entrepreneurship, and then attaching them to mentorship and internship as a way of promoting jobs and businesses for youth. We reached 20,000 young people, of which 75% of them were able to secure employment or start businesses post completion of the project. The second important digital jobs and digital enabled jobs, which really focus on leveraging on our nascent digital ecosystem in Kenya and in Africa, and drawing in lessons that are important as we look at the future of work. We have been running this project since 2017, and now we're in the second phase of the project. At the very initial stage, we focused on introducing young people on online digital work, but this new second phase, which is a little bit more elaborate, goes beyond introducing people to young youth to digital work, but also working at an ecosystem level by strengthening actors in the ecosystem, as well as SMEs who are also playing an active role in promoting digital jobs and digitally enabled jobs in Africa. Another important program that we are handling to support youth and women is on micro and small enterprise support program on entrepreneurship development, mentorship, and financing. This program is funded by Mastercard Foundation and aims at providing to youth at zero interest rates. And this is a measure of addressing disruptions that have been caused by COVID-19. This program is going to reach to 1,500 young people as well as women with the various services. Another important program that we are working on to promote youth businesses and youth employment in Kenya is on sustainable inclusive business that focuses primarily on waste management and as well as promotion of sustainable business practices. The program currently is piloting in one location. 101 young people are already engaged and having enterprises that are focusing on waste recycling. Our aim is to scale that nationally to 3,000 for youth. And so again, as we do this, we are promoting inclusion of marginalized youth in businesses as well as value chains as a way of creating sustainability. Lastly, we also focus heavily on business environment. And in delivering this, we drive evidence-based policy advocacy work that sees policy work benefits from evidence that we're gathering from the private sector and acting, and of course in collaboration with other actors in the ecosystem who are interested in policy development. We work primarily also at a sector level as well as a national level, driving strategic policy decisions and discussions that are aimed at promoting youth employment and more importantly, growing of businesses. As Adia said, we have very specific programs that connect large companies to small companies and medium enterprises in doing business. And so really, this forum today is critical to us because trade sits at the center of the work that KEPSA does in promoting youth employment.
Dr. Gachugo, I think you need to refresh the platform by hitting the F5 button, if you can hear me. Can anyone else hear me? Josie, Avashni?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you, madam. So I think we've lost Dr. Gachugo. Maybe we just give him 1 minute to refresh, see if he comes back on. It's actually our final speaker for today before Mr. Matureki comes to provide us with some closing remarks. Okay, I think unfortunately we've lost Dr. Gachugo right in the middle of what was a particularly insightful presentation. I will say,
Odi, it's very hard to hear you, Odi. It's very hard to hear you.
Is this, hopefully this is better?
That's better, yes.
Okay, thank you, Kuda. Thanks for calling that out. I was saying that unfortunately we have just lost Dr. Kajugu in the middle of what was quite an intriguing and exciting presentation. But what I would say is that a lot of what he was speaking to around the technical skills gaps in Africa's youth entrepreneurship ecosystem is stuff that we are very cognizant of at Afreximbank. And in that regard, the bank is currently finalizing the development of an SME program that will address the gaps that Dr. Gachugu was highlighting, including the need for capacity building and market access, etc. That SME program will also help to push the policy debate towards an enabling environment for Africa's youth-led startup ecosystem. The bank is also looking at conceptualizing a venture fund under its equity investment program, FEDA, in the context of the barriers to borrowing that currently impair youth-led businesses on the continent. So, for example, many youth-led businesses are unable to borrow because they do not have collateral. The cost of borrowing is typically really high on the continent, and many youth-led businesses are young and do not necessarily have a profit history. So I just wanted to call out very, very strong alignment between what Dr. Kachugu is doing with KEPSA and the way Afreximbank thinks about intervening in the youth, in Africa's youth entrepreneurship landscape and ecosystem. I'm sure there's reactions to his presentation, even though he didn't get a chance to finish them. So please keep those coming in the Q&A. Keep the questions coming in the Q&A box. I'll take a handful of questions quickly before I invite Mr. Kudakwashe Matereke to give us his closing remarks. So I will so I think just having a quick look at the Q&A box, much of the questioning is around access. So unfortunately, Dr. Gachugu is not here to take the questions himself, but we will ensure that they are emailed to him, and I'm sure he will respond to you. But generally speaking, people just want to know what the channels are through which they can access all of these interventions and all of these facilities. So without further ado, let me hand over to Mr. Kudakwashe Matereke. Kuda is the Regional Chief Operating Officer for Afreximbank in East Africa, working out of the Kampala office. And he's joined us to say a few words. I suspect he's going to be the main contact for many of you. So let me give him the floor and allow him to deliver his remarks. Kuda, over to you, sir. Kuda, over to you, sir.
Thanks very much, Odi. I hope everybody can hear me. If you can hear me, Odi, maybe I'll assume that a few of our participants can hear me. I'm Kudakwashe Matereke. Greetings from Kampala, and I wish to thank you very much, the participants, for taking part. Based on the presentation that went on today, we are pleased. I'm just going to give a summary of the main key points. Our Managing Director for the Intra-Africa Trade Initiative, Mrs. Kanaya Wani, highlighted the importance of some of the initiatives that Afreximbank is working on. More importantly, she highlighted that there is an opportunity for Afreximbank and KEPSA to work together on the Kenya Africa Trade and Investment Promotion Program, which she gave an acronym KATIP. In this program, we are keen to see how we can provide financing or payment assurances as Kenyan corporates and businesses are seeking to increase their investments in other African countries. We'll be very keen to work with KEPSA on that initiative. There is also the initiative to support the development of industrial parks and export processing zones in Kenya through financing, technical assistance. We welcome that we receive proposals to that effect. Myself and the team here sitting in Kampala will be keen to work with KEPSA and KEPSA members in order to develop such proposals. We would also be keen to work with yourselves to avail global facilities to Kenyan multinational corporations operating in multiple jurisdictions within East Africa. The team in Kampala looks after Afreximbank's business interests from Eritrea, Djibouti, the Horn of Africa, coming down all the way, 11 countries, all the way to Tanzania. So that includes all the East African community countries, and we shall be glad to work with you in that regard. We also welcome the intervention by Mr. Nick Nesbitt when he spoke about the ease of doing business and the need to simplify the way government approaches business. I think it's a welcome development, and we are keen to work with KEPSA in that regard. The other presentations by Gainmore, my colleague in intra-Africa trade, on the adjustment facility, we look forward to receiving proposals from yourselves, and also the African Afreximbank collaborative transit guarantee. For those in transportation and logistics, we are keen to work with you to see how goods can move faster in addressing the challenges at the borders, etc. My colleagues also made a presentation on the Africa Trade Gateway, the MANSA project, the payment, Pan-African payment platform, the trade portal, and the virtual trade fair, as well as the regulatory portal. We want to get ideas and also to see how we can collaborate with Kenyan enterprises in that regard. The important thing is to see how goods can move quicker, faster from the producers to the markets. Included in that is also the issue of the trade enabling infrastructure, the use of export trading companies, and also the Africa Quality Assurance Centers. The Africa Quality Assurance Centers is quite important for us. We have heard about many times when flowers coming out of our markets or horticultural products coming from our markets, avocado pears we have heard, which get declined from international markets probably because they are not properly tested, or they are tested in a manner that probably does not satisfy the markets. How can we work together setting up those centers? I'm imagining a center that can test agricultural produce, which is done where the standards are shared with the markets that do offtake these products. We are keen to work with you in that regard. Then the presentation by Dr. Ehud Gachugu was quite important as well, to see how policy and strategy initiatives can ensure that our youth are fully engaged in business enterprise and also contributing to employment. We thank him for that intervention, and we thank you sincerely for participating. We look forward to hearing from you further on any business opportunities that you may wish us to consider, and we are keen to clarify any points. I don't know, Odi, if you have my business card that you can display on the screen so that we can receive inquiries directly from participants as and when they have their proposals to share with us.
I think Josie and the team can potentially circulate to participants.
But it's very easy. If participants can drop me an email on kmatereke@afreximbank.com. Matereke spelled the way you would spell Matereke in any setup, MATEREKE @afreximbank.com. Alternatively, if you search on our website on the Kampala regional office, we are at Rwenzori Towers, plot 6, Rwenzori Towers, 3rd floor, and in Nakasero, Kampala. And my colleague also, who is listening in right now, her name is Farida Mukasa Kasuja. She looks after Kenya as well. So email to us will be We'll share these emails with the organizers at KEPSA so that we can receive any inquiries from KEPSA members. I wish to thank you sincerely, and over to you, Odi.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kuda, for that very succinct summary of I think that effectively brings us to the end of the program. At this point, it's just for me to say thank you to all the speakers and all the participants for attending this live session. Personally, it's been an extremely enlightening morning for me, and I hope you found today's proceedings insightful too. I cannot overemphasize the alignment between KEPSA's priorities, which we've heard today, and the work that Afreximbank is doing. Especially in the area of youth development, there are a lot of synergies. There is a lot of opportunity for collaboration. I think I spoke briefly about the SME program, but more specifically within the IATF, there is going to be a youth pavilion, and we look forward to seeing how we can pool resources together to get the most out of Africa's youth at IATF 2021. We also look forward to you joining us again at the next countdown session, which will comprise product demonstrations from a host of different sectors and industries from the Korea Africa Foundation, SMME, and Youth Startup Delegation. That event is going to take place daily, starting from the 7th of December and running all the way through to the 11th. So a full week of youth startups showcasing their capacity. And I think it will start every day at 10 a.m. CET. So thank you once again. We look forward to seeing you again next week, as I said, and ultimately, we look forward to you joining us in person or virtually in Kigali at IATF 2021. Thank you very much.